What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Talkin Wellness, presented by South Florida Wellness Network. My name is Christian.
It's your boy, Michael.
And we're here for another episode. We have kicked Kayla out again, because we love doing that for some reason. But obviously, that's a joke. We love her. We love when she's here with us. However, today, the reason she's not here is because we wanted to have a conversation about men's mental health. We were talking a little bit, I want to say last week, or a couple of days ago, we were recording another episode, and we were talking about what conversations would benefit the podcast that we don't often have. Like, I feel we've had a lot of conversations with mothers. We've heard a lot of My Story Matters from women's perspectives. We've heard a lot of even regular episodes from women's perspectives, but we haven't had a time to dedicate for men's mental health. And that's why I have invited two friends of mine from South Florida Wellness Network, to talk a little bit about their experiences and to have a genuine conversation about men's mental health and why it's important to start breaking those stigmas. So how are you guys doing?
I'm doing amazing, Chris. Thank you so much.
Do you mind sharing your names and what you do here at South Florida Wellness Network for the audience?
I'll start us out. My name is Ed. I'm the outreach specialist at this amazing organization.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I am a recovery navigator here at South Florida Wellness Network.
Nice to meet you guys. It's lovely to have you guys. I love my ladies. I love my women, but it's definitely good to have some men on the podcast.
Some bros.
You're so
It's good to have some bros in the podcast.
You're saying that
Mike's is coming out today. No, I'm kidding. No, it's cool to have the guys on. I as Chris said, we definitely we talk about women a lot, as we should. Women are very
We absolutely should.
Yeah, I think women are very pivotal in our society, and I think their health matters a lot. But I think it's important for us to speak about men as well. They're just as important.
And there's a reason for that.
For
right?
sure.
And I'm actually going to use this article. We're going to be using this article by behavioral health centers to kind of guide our conversation for today, because I was reading it, and it does provide some really cool insight as to why there's so much stigma around mental health and what are some common problems that men deal with.
Yeah.
But the point that I was trying to make is that it's important to talk about men's mental health, because right now there's some statistics out there that are scary. In the world of mental health. And let me just read this real quick from their article. There's a tragic intersection of low rates of diagnosed depression and high rates of suicide and substance abuse amongst the U.S. male population. Men account for 75% of all suicide victims in the U.S., with one man taking his own life every 20 minutes. Around the world, men are 3 to 7.5 times more likely than women to take their own lives. Researchers have come up with some theories about this, and we'll get into the theories in a minute. But what do you guys think about that statistic?
I think it's alarming. I think it's something that is highly, undervalued. Men are taken for granted in everything they do. From the time we're kids, we're taught, when you grow up, you have to be the person that is providing for your future family. You have to do this. You have to do that. You don't have time to decompress. You don't get time for yourself. No, it's do, go, 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 go. And by the time, you reach, your old age, it's like, where did my life go? Where did all this happen? Where did everything go for me?
Wow. Yeah. What about you, Ed? What do you think about this?
I don't think it's surprising at all.
You know what? I don't disagree. And that's what's painful about it.
Yeah, I don't think it's surprising at all, because in this day and age, there's I feel a lot more pressures on men. A lot of men do feel emasculated. I know with dealing with other men in this space, more and more I was running into more and more men having mental breakdowns, including myself, right? From time to time, having those real deep struggles, those deep internal struggles, having or needing to be the provider, the protector, right? And with how things have been the past few years, that's been a real challenge.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Things have really been flipped upside down, and it's hard for us to deal and find ways to cope.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you said this, Ed, and I want to just restate it. I think this is a very interesting table of people because we're all at different ages and at different places in our lives, where we all four of us identify as men, and we identify with the societal terms for what a man is, and more than that, we've all struggled with mental health in some way, shape, or form. That's why I think this episode is a little more special than I thought it was going to be, because we can all share a perspective of a moment where it was too dark, and maybe a little too dark, and it got a little too scary, right? And somebody had to come, or something had to come, a light in some way, shape, or form to help us get out of that hole, right? But I do agree with you, Ed. There's a big problem with pressure. There's a big problem with expectations, right? We love to say that, oh, like we're in a new age where those expectations are not real. Bullcrap. I don't believe that. I believe that those expectations are still real. And going back to the article, this is the first point that they make, their first theory. Men as the stronghold. We often think of mental health as an individual issue, something that only affects the person suffering from mental illness. But the truth is, mental health problems can have a ripple effect, impacting not just the sufferer, but also their families, friends, and colleagues. Since men and traditional thinking of masculinity put all the pressure on them, it is more likely for them to have issues. What do you guys think about that?
I'll let you start at this time, Ed.
Well, it's funny, right? That's piggybacking off of what I just said. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is, man. We have so many pressures on us that it's just ingrained. And like I said, being thrown off track with a lot of things, for me, at least, is as far as how I think, and a lot of people in this space are being very scatterbrained, right? Having trouble with keeping things in order, as men are supposed to do, right? We're the ones who keep things in order.
Right.
And being thrown off of that as far as with me, having creating like my own schedule, my own ordered wellness plan, and then having the feeling to kind of keep that in check with others around us.
Yeah.
It's been such a challenge.
Right.
And I keep saying been because of how things have been thrown off kilter recently. I don't find it, like I said, I don't find it a surprise that we're here having to talk about this.
Right.
You know,
do you guys feel that you have any specifics, any specific pressures that you feel you have gone through? Like, I'll share mine real quick. Like, growing up, one of the biggest pressures was cultural, where there's in Latin America, there's this machismo culture. We've talked about it plenty of times in this podcast. But more than that, there's more to that. I meant to say. There's a really big problem in Latin America where men are seen as less than for sharing their mental health. You know, I'll never forget, and this was years ago. I've seen people have conversations about, hey man, I'm not doing good right now. My head is all over the place. I feel that I'm not necessarily healthy, and they try to say every word except mental health, right? I'm not healthy upstairs, or the noggin's not doing good, or like my brain's a little out of whack, right? All the words that you can come up except with I'm struggling with mental health, right? And I'll never forget, there was a situation where a friend of mine was sharing that with his parent. His father, his Mexican father, and his dad literally said, "Take a shot of whiskey and get over it. You gotta go to work."
rub a little tussin on it.
Exactly.
Rub a little dirt on there.
Right, and then just keep going. And like at that moment, I've been blessed to have somebody in my life, my mother specifically, who has valued mental health a lot and has kind of ushered a lot of those conversations. So that's why I'm not afraid to talk with people about my mental health. Even my friends today know, like, I'll tell them that I'm not okay quite often, you know, because it happens often. That's what happens when you struggle with depression, right? It's something that never really ends. However, way back when, I remembered feeling, I felt bad when I heard that conversation happen, but I didn't do anything about it. I didn't tell my friend, hey man, it's okay if you're not feeling good. I just kept going about my business and we ignored it, right? So we see that in that cultural aspect as well. Now, for you three, do you think that you have any specific memories of an experience or a memory or a time where you saw yourself struggling a little bit with those societal standards?
I can attest to that. As far as the generational thing, the generation prior to mine really was about getting over things by picking yourself up by your bootstraps, boy. Yeah. That type of attitude. Oh, it's just indigestion. You know what I'm saying? It's never what's going on over here and ultimately what's stirring in here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it's like, yo, it takes a lot of courage, man. It really does. Not to be like, oh, woo woo or anything, but it takes a lot of courage to admit that.
Let me pause you real quick. You see what you just did, though, and I'm not criticizing you in any way, but that's what I'm saying is that not to be like we feel that we need to put up that like I mean I don't mean to be like the saddest person in the room. No, like right. I'm not criticizing you. I just want to highlight that point because we just saw it happen. Yeah. And that's pretty wild.
How it's ingrained.
Yeah, it's ingrained in us.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
like
keep going.
Yeah. No, I thank you for pointing that out because I see myself doing that a lot, and it's like that internal struggle. It's like I see that. I see how I feel uncomfortable. I feel those sensations. I have those thoughts. I was like that for a long time. You're just being pig-headed. You're being stubborn. It's like, yo, I'm dying inside, man. I feel this certain way.
Yeah.
I don't feel like getting up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I'm blessed to have enough of a support system, a psychic bond with certain individuals, with my family and or friends, that they came to my rescue. When you're in the darkest of days. But yeah, dealing with that. And it's still dealing with those individuals in my life that I love. And I went through or have gone through these things where you now are a wellness whisperer. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I know what you're going through. But I got to be careful as far as how I'm going to approach this. It's not I'm holier than thou or better than you. Maybe we can go this direction. What do you think about this? How should you go about doing that? Like what we do as far as peer work is the same thing. But for me, it's this transferable skills, life skills, and it makes it hard. And I believe in positive projection. I will see something about me in these individuals where I don't want to be like that, or I want to stop being like that because I see how they're suffering and I want to stop suffering. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you kind of get it.
Yeah, that kind of empathy. Yeah, I totally relate to that.
Putting yourself in their shoes.
It's fairly common too for like, especially in our line of work, where we are that hand up for the people that are maybe coming into it now. But I grew up in an Italian household, and in Italian families, it's the same way. It's like you don't talk about, the emotions. You don't relate to what's going on, and nobody wanted to talk about mental health. When I was a kid, it was, he's experiencing this, and I ended up with a misdiagnosis, and on self-medicating because of it for so many years until I was an adult, and finally got the help I needed, but. Even then, I didn't want to open up. I didn't want to. I wanted to hide it. And it's only within the last probably 5 years of my recovery that I've finally opened up about my drug use with my family and things like that. And I'm okay with it because I had to teach myself that. I'm like, we're taught as men, you don't cry. You don't experience that. And, as we were talking about before we recorded, men's mental health is the most taboo subject in the world because men aren't, we're seen as these, strong soldiers and protectors and all this other stuff. And it's like the minute somebody sees us crying, it's like, what the heck's wrong with you? So it was definitely a change for me, and having the friends that I do where they're just like, dude, let it out. It was shocking.
I think it's interesting because it seems like a lot of cultures, whether it's like a Puerto Rican culture, Puerto Rican as well, Italian culture. There's so many different cultures where it seems like they have this machismo background, but it almost like, in my eyes, it seems like it's an old style of thinking, not even like a cultural way. Yes, it's culturally, of course, and every culture is different, but I think it's just an older way of thinking. And I say that because I think now we have modern problems. We have new things that are happening in men's lives and women's lives as well that are creating these difficulties and burdens and depressions and stresses on men that these older men, older generations really don't know how to receive that because they didn't go through it. And that's where we have these issues and the disconnection in the generations. And it's not almost cultural all the time, because I've talked to people that are Spanish or Caribbean or whatnot, and I'm not that, and I hear them out, and that's very similar to mine. Maybe it was different culturally, but it's very similar. And it always comes down to me, it's just a lack of understanding throughout the generations, just because of we've gone through different problems, and it comes down to communication and that and the two people willing to understand each other. That's really what it is.
To further that point, I would argue that culture can be a big thing and it can be a little thing, right? Culture can be American culture, but the relationship in one family can be a whole different culture than what's the norm in American culture, right?
Yeah.
So I think both are true of what you just said, and the reality is that what's true for some people may not be true for other people, and what's lies for some people might not be lies for other people, right? But ultimately, whether it be today or yesterday or tomorrow, men's mental health still seems to be a big problem in the U.S. And maybe that's not the right wording. What I was really trying to say is that men stating that they're going through struggles in mental health is the problem, right? That how do we tackle that as a community of men who are trying to uplift each other in our mental health and our recovery journeys? How do we support each other to make spaces available or comfortable for people to share how they're feeling, right? I want to talk about a very important note, another theory this article brings up: blurring of work and life. The blurring of work and life in men is nothing new. It has been happening for generations, albeit at a much slower pace, and has become more prevalent in this modern world. So much of a man's sense of self-worth is linked to how much money he earns. I'll attest to that because a lot of my mental challenges happened due to the fact that I was overworking myself. I used to work in different places where I loved what I was doing, but I was doing too much of it. You know that old saying that too much of a good thing is not a good thing, right? I have now come to learn that is absolutely 100% true. Just because you love doing something doesn't mean that you need to sacrifice every moment, every experience, every whatever to try to make it work or make it happen productively, because essentially what you're doing is you're tiring yourself. And like, an empty jar won't be able to fill other things. So you know what I'm saying?
But that speaks a lot as far as like what you're going through mentally, right? Being a workaholic,
yeah, there you go.
It's one thing if you're doing something a lot, like it's something that's healthy, but once you dive too deep into it, it does become an issue.
Oh yeah.
Because I know for me, I will go like those deep dives on anything, and I'll be like an extremist. I know this is good for me. I know I'm learning a lot, but I think I'm doing a little too much, and I'm not retaining or getting anything out of it in the end, or nobody else around me is. I don't know if that's
I would
your issue.
No, for sure.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, like I did that for the longest time. Many people are aware, like that we work with. I moved away last year for a short time period. I was doing too much at home and doing too much at work, and what was happening is my work life and my home life were blending together, and it was I had no break. And I wasn't taking vacations when I should. I wasn't taking days off when I needed to. And eventually it just compounded and compounded and compounded. It wasn't until I moved away for that time period that I realized you have to, and to quote like, a movie, Zombieland, They literally said, what is his rule? Love it. Enjoy the little things.
The little things, yeah.
You have to enjoy those little moments, be it your lunch break, just taking like 30 minutes during lunch, even if it's while you're eating, you look up something funny, enjoying those moments to yourself. It could be, hey, I take 10 minutes after work just to decompress in the car for a little while, listen to something calming, or on the weekends, spending time to yourself. And I had to learn how to do that because I was so burnt out when I moved out of state. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to address my own mental health. And when it got to that point, I realized I'm heading for disaster. Before, it ever got that far, I had to put the brakes on. And a lot of men in today's world, and especially here in the United States, we don't take the vacations we should. We don't take the breaks that we need to take in order to just recharge ourselves. They've literally shown that people in the United States are less likely to use their vacation time than in any other country in the world.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Our vacations are the worst compared to any other country in the world, too, if you look at them.
They shut down for like 2 months.
They can go off for like 3 months with benefits.
Yeah.
Or like if you look at the pregnancy stuff.
Yeah.
Like what is that
Maternal
called?
leave,
Maternal leave. You could go off for a
paternal
year in
leave,
some
right.
countries.
Yeah, I think it's Spain. Spain, they every day they shut down. The whole country shuts down for like an hour or two every day
By the siesta.
to give people
siesta.
time to take a nap, to take a break. But it's mostly throughout the European countries where they come over here. They're like, oh yeah, I'm on my second month-long vacation of the year, and I'm like, you get a month off? What is this? And they're more inclined to go out of their comfort zones and travel around the world. And we as Americans go, well, you guys come here and we get mad because people from other countries can't
We're a very
drive.
capitalistic society. That's the reason.
That's kind of where I was going to go to. So let's talk about that. Let's bring some controversy into this episode.
It's just what it is.
Why? So, do you guys think that a large part of issues in men's mental health these days come from governmental pressure?
Yeah.
I would
Of
say
course.
so. Yeah.
In what ways?
I would say look at the inflation rates, the cost of food, the cost of living. I have friends that have, they make really good money, and yet they still need almost a third
struggle.
income.
Yeah.
Even though they're married or things like that, and they're still struggling to survive. And it all depends on where you live and where you're at. But I think as things continue to get more expensive, we are going to continue, the pressure is going to continue to mount. And I don't think it's a matter of wage increase or anything else. I do think it's a matter of we need to be telling people, hey, you need to take a break, and put that pressure, to relieve that pressure off of society as a whole. Because I've had friends that they've literally almost given up because they're like, oh, I want to take a break, but I can't afford to take a break. But
it's always going to come down to the financial burdens as a man.
Yeah.
It's what's going to make us
Because it holds you back, man, from what
from
you want.
everything.
I got to be careful to say in what you want to do. How do you want to express yourself creatively, no matter what way you want to express yourself creatively?
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into the universal whatever basic income thing or whatever, because I kind of don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's okay as far as like my philosophy, like being stoic about things. You really have to take a vacation in yourself. It's not so much as far as taking breaks on the outside. I'm gonna go backpacking in Europe or whatever it is. That's great and that's fine.
Yeah.
But find those, okay, as far as like your own personal wellness plan, really retreat into yourself.
A mental escape. Yeah.
Take that vacation in yourself. How are you going to do that? Whatever you want, if you meditate, the breath work, whatever it is, you're taking those times out in yourself to take that vacation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's all about personal responsibility. Like, I'm very careful as far as like, oh, it's because of this and because of that. Those are factors, but ultimately it starts and continues with me.
Yeah.
I never want to say ends, because when it ends, it ends. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
It always starts and continues with me. So as far as like that personal responsibility, I really value that. You know, at the end, I answer to myself. God knows my heart. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
If
for
that
sure.
makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that's very valid, because, and I've seen it in my own personal life with some of the people that I care about. You know, not just men, women as well, where working becomes such a big priority that everything else becomes second. And when everything else becomes second, that means that you're giving more importance to the first thing. I had a leader tell me once these words that still ring true in my head, and I still remember very vividly. He said, when you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else, right? And I never really understood that until I had some situations happen in my life where that became very true. You know, when you say no to spending time with your kids, it's because you're saying yes to spending more time with work or spending more time somewhere else. When you say no to I'm not gonna sleep. I'm not gonna sleep right now. Is because you're saying yes to something else, right? When you tell your friends, hey, but when you let's flip the coin. When you tell work, hey, I am not gonna work this weekend, even though you're short.
The power of no.
The power of no, right? Even though you need people, I have it on my schedule. I can't come to work today. No. What you're saying yes to is rest. What you're saying yes to is family. What you're saying yes to is your own mental health, right? And some people might see that as a challenge, right? They might see like, what are you saying? Like we should develop a society where people don't work and where people are just like relaxing all the time. That's a very dangerous way of thinking, right? Because what you're saying essentially is that what you prefer is no rest, which means that you prefer the repercussions of no rest, right? So that's a very slippery slope way of thinking, right? So, and I'm not telling people like you need to sleep 24 hours a day. That's not what I'm saying either. You know, there's a time to rest and there's a time for work and there's a time for play and there's a time for fun and family. There needs to be time for everything. But when men are having, or women, when mental health is positive, you start learning how to schedule your time in the way where you're saying yes and no to the things that need to be said yes and no to. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I love that you brought the conversation about plan, a wellness plan and stuff like that. I think that perfectly segues into another topic that I want to talk about. We here at South Florida Wellness Network, we practice something called WRAP, Wellness Recovery Action Planning. And one of the things that we practice in that is something called wellness tools. And I believe that every person in the world needs to have a list of wellness tools, things that just make you feel good, things that give you a little bit of hope, a little bit of encouragement, things that just help you relax for a couple of minutes or a couple of hours, right? For me, one of my big ones is movies. We've talked about movies all the time. We've talked about music on the podcast. Music is another one for me. I'm spending time with my family, with my friends, with my fiance. All those are things that I consider to be wellness tools for me. So I want to hear from you guys. How can we, maybe you guys can give some ideas to our listeners. What are some wellness tools that you have discovered in your life that help you just feel good and give you a little bit maybe of encouragement, a little bit of hope, and just help you through tough times?
For me, I like spending time outdoors. Again, when I moved away, something that I used to love to do, and friends and I used to do a lot, is we'd get up early, you know, maybe once every couple of weeks, and we'd head out go fishing for a day, go out in the Everglades and stuff. And I started taking that for granted as a person, as we were saying, and it was like, what am I prioritizing over? And so now I make a habit, I have a home garden at home, so I make a point of habit of at least spending, on my days where I come in a little bit later, spending that 30 minutes outside, getting that sunlight, that vitamin D, because a lot of people don't realize it. Your vitamin D, it actually helps your body. It builds your immune system. It makes you feel good. And, so taking in that daily sunlight, like, listen, we work indoors, we're in artificial light 90% of the time. It's artificial air.
Yeah, recycled air, right?
Yeah, it's like go outside and enjoy those beautiful moments. And it's we live in Florida. It's 105 degrees outside, but You know,
Yeah.
it could arguably be worse, and you know, we could live in the desert somewhere and where you can't go outside at all. And I started taking time outside just for myself, and like I said, I take every little moment that I can get to me. I tend to take that and do exactly what Ed said. It's like you have to take that moment, take that internal break, you know, let your brain kind of disconnect for a while, just so that there's not that overload on it.
Yeah. I'll share another one of mine. One of my favorite things to do is to drive. Whenever I need to
I'm with
decompress or I need to like just have a moment to myself, listen to some music, I drive. In Florida, here in Broward specifically, we have a road called A1A.
Yep.
And it's the one right by the beach, right? Where you drive it, you feel you pull your windows down, you smell the beach, you feel the breeze. And everybody in my family knows that if I ever need a moment to just decompress and just be alone and be with my thoughts, I'm gonna go drive A1A.
That's your supplement, man.
That's one of my little lifelines, right? I put music on, and I have different playlists or different moods. So one day I'll put on like my depression playlist and I'll start listening to sad songs. But then I'll put my my rock playlist and I'll start jamming to like, I don't know, Guns N' Roses on A1A, and everybody's looking at me weird, like, oh my God, this guy is really obnoxious. And I'm like, sorry, I just really need this.
Yeah,
You know?
I'm doing me.
And that's one of the things that I've learned that really helps me. And I remember I told my fiance about it, because one of the things that another wellness tool that I've tried to work on is telling my fiance about my mental health very openly, very honestly. We even have our little code words. Like when she knows when I'm being inauthentic, she's like, "There's the word." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not. I don't feel good right now." But yeah, it's just everybody knows that, you know, that's something that I like, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah, for me, it's routine. Like I mentioned that before. It's creating that routine for me, because I'll easily not have one. I mean, I figured that that's a good personality trait of mine. I'm very free flow, I enjoy happenstance. Things just kind of happen. Ooh, it's fun. But at least I know that
You want to go bowling after this?
What's that?
You want to go bowling after this?
Yeah, let's do it.
You think they'll let us?
This happenstance. You're just gonna make it happen. And it's gonna be great.
But it's creating that own wellness plan of mine, that the Batman utility belt, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like that. It's like, okay, this is like your smoke grenade, is going to A1A and, you know, soaking in that mad prana.
So
you know what I'm saying? While listening to Guns N' Roses.
What's your shark repellent? What's your bat shark repellent? I'm just curious here. For those who don't know, Batman has a shark repellent on his belt, and it's the funniest thing.
He's the best. Come on, man.
What's your shark repellent here in terms of wellness tools?
I would say my dedicated breathwork practice.
Ooh, breathwork. Yeah.
Yes, my dedicated breathwork practice. It has helped me so much in my recovery. I always make sure that is my priority when I wake up. And it's in several parts. I'll wake up and I'll breathe a certain way. I have different kind of like modalities. I go to the bathroom, I have something else that I do. Throughout the day, I check in. At night, I have an actual sit. You know, I'll sit down and do this. I have something that I use in real time. So that's something that really helps me. It's like my friend that's there, you know. So that is my shark repellent.
I have a question for you, and then I want to hear from you, Michael, too. Some wellness tools, so start building them up in your brain. I didn't want to bring it up because I want you to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up anyways. Okay. I've known you for a couple weeks, months now. I've seen your Instagram, and I've seen that you have a very big talent for art. Would you say that art has been one of your wellness tools?
That's so funny that you say that, man. That you're very observant. Because when I was working with my peer specialist, he's the one who got me back into art. I've been a lifelong artist. I've always loved comic books. I always loved my cartoons and drawing. It's funny. I used to, I'm old enough, well, I used to record on VHS cartoons, and I always loved the intros to like the Thundercats, different action cartoons of the 80s. And I would pause it, and I would draw each cell. I would draw it out. Or I'd pose in front of the mirror and I'd draw like an emotion on my face. So art has always been a main expression of mine since I was a kid. And I fell off of it. Like anything else, we all know what's good for ourselves, but we neglect that. You know, it's that resistance that comes in. Ooh, resistance. It's like, okay, we know that it's good for us. I know it's great for me. I know time just, it just melts away when I'm getting into my artwork. 4 hours will pass. Oh, that's the time that it is now.
What made you stop doing the artwork?
That resistance.
What was the
It's
resistance?
laziness.
Oh, okay.
You know how our mind it wants to keep us safe, even if it's almost to like our own like discomfort or detriment. Because I'm safe here right now, even though I'm not doing that. But it's funny, like you're saying that is that my peer specialist, when we're putting together the rap plan, it's like, Ed, you haven't put down, you know, your artwork. That's what you do. And it's funny that you say that. And that, you know, the breath modalities is very important to me, but yes, the art is very important to me. But it's crazy how I will fall off of it for extended periods of time. And thank you for pointing that out, man.
Yeah. And it just goes to further show what mental health can do to someone, right? I'm the kind of person, another aspect of rap, more towards the end, is when things get worse. There's a specific line that says that, and it's and one of my things that I put on that list was, when things get worse, I'm no longer enjoying the things that make me happy.
Yes.
When my mental health is getting to a point where it's like going beyond the normal that I can control, you can clearly see it. Like I'm gonna be like, hey, you want to watch a movie? And I'm gonna be like, no. Or hey, do you wanna go listen to some? You wanna go watch a concert? I'm good. I want to stay home. That's not a good sign. Christian's red alert. Christian's not doing good. So, but Michael, I want to go to you, and as we start kind of wrapping up, what would you say are some tools that you have utilized for your mental health?
Tools. I mean, it's always been a tricky topic for me because tools is. I mean, I don't know. It's a weird question for me to answer. I've always. Okay, let me think about my struggles in life. My struggles in life, I've been to coming into the world out of high school, realizing that life was a lot realer than you think. I think I had honestly a really great life. I had a lot of great experiences. Not saying that I didn't have struggles, but I think life really hit me when I got out of high school. When I got out of high school is when you start realizing that you got a lot of bills to pay, you have a lot of burdens on you as a man, and women and different things like that. And if you want a certain woman, you're gonna have to do so. There's a lot of things that hit me all at once, right after high school. And I guess my wellness tools to deal with those struggles as a man that I've kind of experienced would just be, you know, really, like you said, having a personal relationship within yourself. I think if you're so consumed, if you don't have a relationship with yourself, you're going to be so consumed with what other people are doing. Wow. So social media, your friends,
absolutely,
all those types of people. And then that puts you in such a bad place because then you're looking for those types of women. You're looking for people's validations in so many different areas. So I think the number one thing you can do, a wellness tool, it's not a wellness tool, but I think the number one thing you should do is try to have a personal relationship with yourself and take accountability for the things that you want in your life. You know, the wellness tools that I've used for that, I would say, are just having people in my support corner, like people that are really close to me. I've had a lot of friends from high school, a lot of friends. Like, I never thought I was a popular kid, but my sister would tell me, she's like, dude, you were super popular in high school. But now that I think about it, I have 2, 3, 4 friends that I really talk to, maybe even less than that. And the people that would think they're my friends would, if they hear that, they'd probably be like, what the hell, you know? So it's just like, it really is about having that personal relationship with you. And the wellness tools would be, it'd be back to just having that support system. And then 2, once you have that relationship with yourself, you'll find the things that you love. You know, I love playing soccer. I love watching soccer. I love going to the gym. You know, that's my
Wellness
beach.
tools, yeah,
That's my
absolutely.
beach. You know, that's how I go to the beach and get kind of my rage and my frustration out, because as a man, you are gonna get angry, and that's completely normal. As a woman, you're gonna get angry.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's something we didn't hit on, but I think that's a big
And
part
we
of it
have
too.
to have very positive routes to get some of that anger out. You know,
I agree.
You get anger from all the things and the frustrations that build up as a man, and all the things that you have to do, and all the things that you have to appease to and be, and that builds resentments.
You
you know,
you have to learn how to channel it the
exactly,
right way.
and you have to learn how to channel it, whether it be breath work, whether it be going to the gym, whether it be going to the beach, whether it be playing video games, which is something I also extremely love to do.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
so it's really about having that relationship with self and understanding what's going to be beneficial for yourself to grow as a person.
Absolutely.
And then if you grow as a person, everything else will just fall in place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, yeah, like that. Just to touch on what Michael was saying is, and then to touch on what Ed was saying as well. I used to write when I was in high school, and my mental health and stuff like that got in the way of it because I was seeing that darkness come out in the writing and stuff, and it scared the ever living daylights out of me.
Right.
And it got me to go reach out. Now when I write, I'm a little more calm, things like that. But it was until I started building, and I tell this to, my peers and the people I work with, you have to have that relationship with you. Because if you don't, and you're not confident in who you are, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you. Yeah. Everybody can give you all the praise in the world. You have to be confident in yourself. And it's not that I don't struggle with it. And I know that, we as men, we all have our struggles. We all have our moments where we just, we doubt ourselves if we're going to have these things, but it comes back to you believing in you.
Yeah.
And, finding what pushes you to go forward versus, letting yourself be stuck there. I tell my peers, hey, don't get stuck in the past and don't get stuck in the future. You got to worry about what's going on right here, right now. If you've got 10 minutes where you can just sit down and do a breathing exercise or write something out or, get a quick workout in or listen to some music, or do a combination of things, take it. Don't take those things for granted because that's how you build that resentment up. And before you know it, we're men, we hold everything inside. Yeah. And then you pop off at the wrong point in time. And people get, and then you're looked at like you're a jerk.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you say that, right? Because you pop off, but then it's not you who gets affected, it's everybody you care about.
Yep.
Everybody around you, right? And that's why mental health is so important to keep in check. There is one more man in this room that we have not asked this question to, and I know we're running on time. I know we're running out of time, but I would appreciate if they could come to the camera and to the microphone over here and just share maybe what's one wellness tool they can use. That is our wonderful, wonderful tech person, Giancarlos. Please come on through. We never get to hear your voice. I would love if you can give like a suggestion to the listeners. What's one wellness tool that you do to keep your mental health in order and positive?
Come a little more into the chair. There you go.
Surprised I have an afro.
That's why we put you guys next to each other.
All right. Oh gosh. No, like Michael said, I did a lot of video games. My mom kind of introduced me to that when I was young, not realizing that was going to be such a big point in like my life. I agree with the music thing. I love music. I have like a couple thousand songs on my Spotify.
Yeah,
I
me too.
love music so much. And being outside, I was always sporty. I loved playing sports. I played most sports I could get my hands on. And just making friends through that was a big thing. Like most of my support systems have been like one person from each sport I did or each activity I did.
There you go.
I did horticulture in school. I was planting. I was outside mowing lawns. Like I would go to school in a tank top, and a tank top and a basketball shorts and mow a lawn at school. And yeah, so I like every point you guys have made, I've like been in the back like nodding and
that's another thing that's funny. I think the male experience is extremely complicated, but it's extremely simple.
Yeah.
Like we have very hard. I don't ever want to say we have very hard lives. I think the male life is extremely difficult. I think we go through a lot of stuff as far as financial burdens, that traditional role as far as in the household if a woman wants that. So those are difficult. And I lost my point. What I was just saying, my ADD just snapped. What did I just say?
You squirreled. We squirreled.
Well, listen. I kind of get where you're going with that. Like, our lives are complicated as men.
It's easier.
But ironically enough, we are wholly simplistic creatures.
Exactly. That's
when you look at it, it's like, okay, we need love, affection, time for ourselves so that we can build. And that's it. That is it.
And enough money to do all this.
It's like,
because without money, you ain't getting love, food, nothing. Unfortunately.
Literally, my family asked me, they're like, you had a rough day, and yet you still seem so happy. I'm like, I have food, I have shelter, and I have video games that can appease me because I can't go anywhere because it's dark outside. I'm like, all right, cool.
Might as well, yeah.
It's like that one picture of a man's apartment, and you just see like a TV,
Yeah, and a mattress on the
console,
floor.
And an air mattress.
PlayStation, and a mattress, and he's the happiest man alive.
But it's true.
But that's the thing. We are.
Like my bills are low, doing what I like doing. I have freedom.
I got my cup of ramen noodles on the side, and I'm watching a movie or playing Spider-Man. It's the best.
So one thing that was brought out to me when what Giancarlo just mentioned is creating your own communities.
Yeah, huge wellness tool right there.
Pokemon Go.
Yep.
You create your own communities.
I
It's
will
part of that
happily
Not
admit that
sponsored.
I'm a nerd.
So it's such a big deal as far as like keeping yourself in check, as far as creating those communities, those tribes that you fit in with and that you enjoy.
Yeah, and you're not alone. Like you're saying, there's nerds out there. No, I'm kidding. I'm a nerd. Straight up, I'm the nerdiest person. Straight up, the things I do, the activities I do are so nerdy, dude. Like,
Carlos, point the camera at me real quick. We're just going to give you a little bit of sneak peek. We are planning a nerds episode where you're going to see both of these gentlemen back here. And trust me, you think that's a weird topic, but there's so much wellness in being a nerd. That so many things that you can do as a nerd and as a geek or as
nerds are in nowadays.
Yeah, like there's so many things that you can do in that realm for wellness, right? And I think all three of us, and maybe even a little bit of Michael, can agree with that. So I just wanted to make that statement.
Hey, I'm a nerd. I'm not I don't watch. I ain't gonna lie. I don't watch comics. When it comes to gaming and being just a nerd as far as personality and quirky and weird, dude, I'm there. It's just I do a lot of other things that are.
Yeah.
You're balanced.
Traditionally, man.
You're balanced, man. You're balanced.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah, I try to be.
you know who we have to bring for that nerd episode if we can swing it? Brian Sims. Remember Brian?
Yeah, Brian. Brian will be good.
He's a big. He was for our Veterans Day episode.
I ain't gonna lie. I'll beat all of you guys in video games. So that's how we'll prove our nerd.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
how we'll prove
I'll give that point to Michael. He used to be pro player. Like, yeah. But anyways, we want to thank you all so much for listening. I want to thank the both of you for joining us here at the table.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And I just wanted to kind of, as a blanket statement to kind of end us off, women, we love you, and we definitely recommend that you seek out if you're struggling with your mental health. But this specific one is going to go to the guys out there. Please, you are not alone. I know it feels like it. I know your brain tells you that you are, but you're not. You are capable of so many great things. But guess what? There's a saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. And that saying is true, but it also wasn't built by one person. Okay? So please, if you're struggling with mental health, seek help. Talk to people. Don't let it stay in, because then it'll grow, and God knows what's going to happen.
Yep.
Right? Thank you one more time to the both of you. We thank you so much for watching these episodes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, share this podcast with anybody that you know. We want to reach more people so we can do more episodes. And also, if you're one of our audio listeners, whether it be Apple Music, Spotify, podcasts, whatever it is, we see you, we love you, and we thank you for supporting us through there. So please give us 5-star if you can, so we can share the podcast with more people. Also, our 10-year anniversary gala is coming up. Ed is a big part of that right there. It's coming up, and we need all the support we can get, okay? There's going to be a wonderful fundraiser and a great opportunity to get more funds into South Florida Wellness Network to keep making great impact in the community. So if you want information about that, please go to the description of this video. You are going to find that link. And if you're listening to the audio versions, the link is also there in the description of every episode, okay? So if I'm not mistaken, that's everything, right?
Yes, it is, sir.
All right. Have a great day, and we'll see you next
Shout
week
out,
for
brothers.
another episode. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Talkin Wellness. I just wanted to make this quick little thing to let you guys know that help is available. These are some of the numbers that you can call. You can call 1-800-662-HELP or 1-800-662-4357. That is SAMHSA, the National Mental Health Hotline. And also you can call the number 988, which is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You guys are not alone, okay? So seek help if you need it. Thanks for watching. Bye.
All right, that was fun. That could have gone on for another 5 hours.
Who's calling me?
I actually was gonna say like the end there too. Is it's like, you know, when we talk about it, I would rather,
John.
I would rather hear a person say that I'd rather a man come to me with his problems, and I'd rather listen to him cry and sit there with me for hours on end. And this goes to anybody that I know. I'd rather hear you come to me crying than have to sit at your funeral.
Absolutely.
Because I have
Absolutely.
lost friends to suicide. I had a friend commit suicide a few years ago, and she left behind a baby girl. And it was one of the hardest moments that I had to go through. So, you know, just to feed that, I'm fully open to somebody calling me in the middle of the night going, hey, listen, I'm in a dark place. Can we please meet up? I don't care if I've got to work in the morning. Listen, you know, I'd rather call out of work the next day because I help save your life versus you do something that, you know, affects everybody else as well.
And the crappy thing is that most men, even knowing that they probably could have someone there for them to do that, they won't.
Yep.
They'll
They're
still
afraid.
go ahead and it happens to a lot of men. I've heard different dudes talk about theirs, and it's weird. You don't hear about it often. You hear about a lot of different women that they go down and they, you know, they talk about their story of how they got to a place where they wanted to do this. But I'd never heard that perspective from a man. And when I had heard it from one of my close friends, it was super, super interesting to hear it because it's just like, I felt like we had always had a support system around each other as brothers to never have someone feel that way. But you never know. You know, people get lost in the world and people get lost in their own thoughts and their own feelings. And it makes them feel completely alone when they have people all around them.
No judgment.
Oh
right?
no, not at all. It happens to us.
real.
It's such a
It's
difficult.
real.
Like I said, we're simple people, but it's an extremely difficult life to have as a man and as a woman. We all have our burdens, and we all have our society. Society
Being a
pushes us to do
person
things.
is hard.
You know? For sure.
Being a
super,
human is hard.
Humaning is hard.
It
man.
is.
It is.
it is super hard. I agree.
All right.
Were we recording that stuff?
Yeah. So.